Hello, hello, folks. Happy Saturday. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you're calling in from. We are super excited to kick off our second workshop today in this hackathon. You all have been amazing. We've been in the Discord seeing all the questions, all the energy. Really, really excited about day two of our hackathon, and going to kick it off today with a workshop all centered around how to win. My name is Jared Barnes. I'm our head of ecosystem acceleration here at the Near Foundation. I'm joined by Ken Miyachi, our tech lead and all things extraordinaire here at the foundation. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we will jump right in to our session today. Now, I know some of you all have been working really, really hard, and we absolutely see that. What we want to do today with our time is really share a little bit more about not only our evaluation criteria that we shared a little bit yesterday, but really deep dive some great Web3 projects, what makes them great, and how to actually build great software products. That's really the purpose of today's workshop as we dive in. And so just for a quick overview of our session here, we won't go too long, but really want to make sure this is as informative and impactful as it can be. We'll talk a little bit first about building great software products, how you can best use the remaining time of this hackathon. I think we got like 23 hours remaining, or almost 22 now at this point. We'll talk a little bit about just the Web3 market overall, where some white spaces and areas of opportunity. As I mentioned, we'll double click on our evaluation criteria, what we look at for judging, talk about our categories of interest that we mentioned, and then share some examples. Let's jump in. We're going to kick it off. We're going to get right into it. What actually makes great software products? If you are in the comments right now, would love to hear your thoughts. Drop it in and get some dialogue going there. But there are so many definitions of what actually makes great software. Some of this, right, if we went around our virtual room, all of us would probably give different answers, which is great. However, for our context and purpose today, right, what we really want to dial in on are products that are actually solving real problems. And there are a lot of different ways that you can approach solving problems, right? Whether it is thinking of an experience you had or so many other different ways. One tried and true framework that came from the late Dr. Clayton Christensen, who was a professor at Harvard Business School, was called the Job to Be Done framework. Simply saying that all of us in our daily interactions, right, when we buy a product, we essentially hire that product to help us do a job or fill a need that we have, right, or solve a pain point that we have. And if it does that job, air quotes, well, the next time we're confronted with that same problem, right, we tend to hire that product again. And if it doesn't do a good job, we fire it and we look for an alternative, right? And so some of us, there may be a situation, right, when I am looking to connect, right, with others and want to find others who are passionate about what I'm passionate about, so I can feel a sense of community. I go to Discord, right? There are so many things we could put through this framework, but this is really one tried and true way to think about solving real problems. Now, this is great. It's a framework like any other framework, right? We don't live in theory, we live in practice. How does this actually show up? Well, it continues to show up, again, like we iterated yesterday, when you're talking to users, right? And starting with your team, starting with others in this hackathon and in the community right now can only create more clarity to solve real problems. Now, we're not going to deep dive the fundamental practice of user research, right? We got 22 hours left. May not have a ton of time to do that, but we want to really reiterate the focus around solving real problems. And what better way than actually learning this than through the origin of arguably one of the most category defining companies in crypto, in Coinbase, right? And there's a lot of different things we could say about Coinbase, but for those of you who aren't familiar, they have an incredibly powerful origin story that I think is a great lens to not only solving a real problem, but looking at a framework that can teach us how to actually build a great software product as well. So I think we all know Coinbase today. Many of us know who Brian Armstrong, the co-founder and CEO of Coinbase, is. However, not many of us may know his actual first Hacker News post that he put out before Coinbase even existed. Let's flash back. This is 2012, so 11 years ago, right? March 26, 2012. And I quote, "I'm throwing a Hail Mary here." This is Brian Armstrong. "Desperate times call for desperate measures. I have an awesome prototype built that brings an emerging tech to the masses, and I think has a good shot of changing the world." Talk about conviction in an idea. And I'm not going to read this word for word, but jumping down. So what will this solution be? It's going to be a digital currency like Bitcoin or some derivative of it, running in the cloud with a solid API to build an ecosystem around it. Now, 2012, people were laughing at it. Literally, if you go, I called it out, and then you look through the comments in Hacker News, right? This wizard hat said, "I'm going to call it right now, bad idea," right? And so share this to say that, sometimes you may not always get the validation that you're looking for, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad idea, right? This is where we really have to understand from a foundational perspective the core problem that we're solving, right? As you can see here, Brian Armstrong had high conviction in the idea for what is now Coinbase. And so let's unpack that. The first thing he did is he shipped it, he brought it to life. Coinbase actually started as BitBank. This was a side project that Brian Armstrong built out himself. He applied to Y Combinator with this idea, but he actually decided not to act on it until he found a co-founder to actually build out what is now Coinbase. And the entire premise was sending and receiving Bitcoin, right? And making it as easy as possible, specifically for non-technical individuals, right? Because if you look at it, and YC ended up publishing his application. These are quotes that Brian Armstrong put in his application, right? 3 things that he did really well, right? That I would say are great pillars to pillars to great software products. He identified a market trend and identified consumer demand. He said right now, this was 2012, there are about 100,000 Bitcoin users despite the relatively immature tools, which is a good indicator of interest, right? Saw a trend, saw consumer demand. But what he also did is he pinpointed a very specific and niche problem. He said buying and selling Bitcoin is incredibly difficult, right? Right now, people use the open source desktop client, which is scary unless you're technical. And people also go through multi-step processes to buy and sell Bitcoins through different intermediaries, right? A lot of friction on that journey. And more importantly, he created a differentiated solution. Coinbase, as a hosted Bitcoin wallet, made it easy for non-technical folks to participate in this new digital currency, what we know as crypto, that was validated very quickly upon launch when they launched on August 10th. And that first week in market, they grew 20% daily, which is absolutely wild in the world of consumer tech. And so we share this because if you think about the patterns of product innovation, right, typically they fall in one of 3 buckets. This is not an exhaustive list, but if you're still noodling on different ideas in your team and you're talking about what should we build, how should we build it, how do we want to approach this problem that we've identified, what's the best way we can do it? Well, typically they fall in one of 3 buckets. One is creating a new product category, exactly what Coinbase did, or reinventing an existing product category. How can we make something 10x better? Or we're unlocking a new behavior, right? We've created this new product category, but now we're seeing humans interact differently because of this technology. We'll unpack these 3 things. This came from Todd Jackson, who's a partner at First Round Capital, previously was a VP of product and design at Dropbox. So 1, creating a new category, right? You're a first mover, you're an early mover in a new market. You're making something that is really hard, really easy. What Google did for search. Or you're capturing and facilitating an emerging use case, what Coinbase did for Bitcoin payments. You're productizing a manual process, whether we agree with it or not. This is what Tinder did for dating. Or you're commercializing internal systems, what AWS has done and is doing for enterprise. Now, you might have some hurdles in consumer awareness and convincing users that they need a product like this. But if you think about who you are building for, are you building for the 1% of perhaps crypto native folks or the 99% of general users, right? Really important to understand who are you building for. Or you could be reinventing an existing category, right? You're solving something 10x better, right? That either is adding a technology to a new platform, right? What a lot of folks don't realize is Sketch existed before Figma, but Figma added collaboration in the browser. fundamentally changed how we think about design and collaborative design today. Or you're simply just superior execution, right? Corporate messaging existed way before Slack did. Slack just did it better, right? And made it a much easier to use and enjoyable experience. Or you're unlocking new user behaviors, right? This is what Stripe did in making payments much more simple, but they also empowered small businesses, individual consultants, companies to create payments in a totally new way that we hadn't thought about before. We also see this in consumer social or Web3 social, right? Where we're creating these social experiences and we're seeing and capturing the behavior that is existing on the platform, essentially what TikTok has done with short form video. Or we're creating marketplaces that connect supply and demand in new ways, where Airbnb connects supply and demand around authentic experiences in a way that didn't exist before, right? When you make hard problems easier, you create magic. If you need an example, look at ChatGPT, right? Probably prior to October 2022, very few people understood large language models. Now it's probably somewhat conversation at the dinner table, right? This is when you unlock new user behavior. So we know you guys are hacking and really focused on building, but share that as a backdrop to really understand where you fit in the terms of product innovation and problem that you're solving and who you are building for. One of the fastest ways to quickly validate what it is you're doing. Many of us have heard the term MVP or minimum viable product. That is very much part of what we're doing here at this hackathon. In the back of your minds, consider a minimum viable test. In other words, not only what you're building, but how you're going to validate the hypothesis to what you are building. This is something that you must be right about, or your idea may not necessarily take off. It's being really clear about your value proposition. In other words, what is the promise that you are sharing with the world about your idea? What are some of the key assumptions that you have? What needs to be true in order for your idea to really work? What might actually break your idea? And what is your atomic unit, right? In other words, the core heartbeat that really makes the entire flywheel or the entire value chain of your product go. For Google, right, it's the search query, right? It's me entering in Google, right? That is the atomic unit as well. So share this again as a backdrop to keep in the back of your mind as you're continuing to build and continuing to work in your teams, and think about how can you best leverage this opportunity to create a meaningful product. Now, again, we don't want to live in theory all day, so I'm going to turn it over to my teammate Ken to talk specifically about how you can best use this time during the hackathon. Ken, I'll allow you to go ahead and share your screen.
Thanks, Sherry. Great seeing everybody again. So I'm going to go over a couple different things, but the first being hackathon optimization. Let me go on the slideshow. So the first one, we only have, right, 22 hours, total, not a ton of time. So the first is to really plan your approach and think constructively about this. I think the first one is play to your team's strengths, right? Hackathons are a great place to learn, but using what you already know is a great way to, optimize and maximize deliverables in the short amount of time. The second one is on your technology approach. It's the name of the game here is velocity. And it's really important that you choose the developer tooling and the infrastructure that will allow you to, get to this proof of concept as fastly as possible. Focus on optimization later, but for a hackathon, really try to get to that POC. And then on the design approach, right? First impressions are super important. So, optimally, you would create a front end, a demoable front end, but make sure to focus on design and UX and make sure that's very thought out so that you can really articulate your vision. Right. The second one, I touched on it a little before, but really want to emphasize sprint to the proof of concept. 2.5 days is just not a lot of time to fully implement anything. So velocity is key here. Right. We don't expect you to have a full, MVP fully implemented, but being able to demonstrate your technical abilities and show all the progress you've made in this short amount of time can be a great way to to really highlight your team and what you've done over the weekend. And then the last one is focus on the vision, right? Make sure that you have some sort of demoable either framework or POC that you can show and that it's captivating. The third one here is about idea validation. So kind of there's not enough time in the weekend to do full user research and conduct like a full user research session. However, idea validation is critical. So try to collect as much feedback as you can from your other hackathon participants, from the Major League Hacks team, from the near team, and try to get that as honed in as possible. And then the last one is nail your presentation. So communication and presentation skills are really, really important when articulating the value of your product. And so make sure to practice and focus on storytelling. How can you, captivate the audience on the problems that your product is solving? And then the last one is super important. Stay relaxed. I think being calm and confident is one of the best ways to have a compelling presentation. And then something that's kind of critical and unique to maybe this hackathon specifically is having a really well thought out long-term plan. The winners of this hackathon are going to participate in a 12-week fellowship program to build out their idea. So ensuring that you have a long-term plan is really important. Definitely hit on what you're going to use the near horizon credits for, where you could use support, and then definitely outline the roadmap of, hey, if we do continue working on this project for the next 12 weeks, what are the goals and deliverables at 1, 2, 3 months time that you plan on implementing? So now I'm going to go into a little more about kind of the ideas, and I think it really makes sense to start with a general Web3 market analysis. So great report by Masari, but their book one is What Happened in 2022. We're in a bear market right now. However, some of the strongest Web3 and crypto projects were built in previous bear markets and crypto winters. Jared highlighted the use case of Coinbase, but really they started taking off in 2015, as well as a variety of other custodians such as BitGo, where kind of your basic trading crypto infrastructure was lacking. They identified that problem, were able to build in the bear market, and then when the markets turned around, they had a great market share and a great product. And then the other example is a lot of these great DeFi products came in the bear market of 2018. You can think of Uniswap, Aave, and now in the DeFi summer of 2021, they were very well positioned to increase revenue, grab market share, etc. So okay, we're in a bear market. Great time to build now. What do I build? I think it goes back to originally what builds great software products. Identifying problems is really the critical step here. So some interesting points that have been highlighted in a variety of reports are solving for systematic risk, proof of reserves, on-chain monitoring, and solving for on-chain hacks. You can think of purely technical security vulnerabilities, but you can also think a lot about social governance. As we get more and more user adoption, you're only as secure as the weakest component of your security, and humans are in that loop. They have wallets, especially in fully decentralized self-custody applications. Competitive financial markets is another really interesting one, right? You need over collateralized lending right now in Web3, but traditional financial markets, you take on under collateralized loans and stuff like that. And then ensuring true decentralization, right? I think we have a lot of single point failure still, even though we're much more decentralized today than we were in the past. But you can think of computing platforms, AWS, GCP. How do we really get that fully decentralized, as well as our data? I think AI is making a lot of noise about the value of our data that was kind of in our periphery, but now is very much in front of our faces in our daily lives. And then I definitely recommend that everyone, if you guys want to check out Alliance DAO is an investment DAO, and they kind of iteratively keep up to date a list of startup ideas that I think are really strong. Okay, now going into like the nitty gritty of the evaluation criteria, what is going to be the rubric that we're going to be assessed on for these projects? So the first one is the team. Definitely make sure to hit on your team's experience. A good balance of technical and business experience is always like a well-balanced team often is really positive. Showing the passion and dedication to your product and demonstrating like a strong commitment to what you think you're building is going to be successful is really important, as well as showing off the resourcefulness and efficiency that your team use. So any kind of innovative, uh, simplifying, you know, code or idea or product that you use in your project, like definitely try to highlight how your team was both resourceful and efficient. And then the last one is that the team has a strong understanding of the blockchain and Web3 industry. I think it's really important. There's a lot of unique aspects of blockchain and Web3 that where it's important when you're building a company in the space. The second one is the product and the market. This is a super critical one. So right, hitting home again that the problem and the solution are clear and very well articulated. What are the unique insights and leverage that your team has that are going to make the product either beat competitors, or if it's a new space, why is this new market extremely important and ripe for disruption? Making sure that you make it clear that the usefulness and the essentialness of the product. Why do people need to use it? And then another one is essentially about the product market fit. Why now? Wow, why is this product entering the market going to really change? And why is the timing correct? And then the last one is about scalability. How can this product attract a massive number of users and take off in a long-term way? The third one is on the technical side of things. So I think the first one is that there's a compelling and well-articulated reason of why integrate into Near. And what about Near makes this the right fit for your product? I think Steve Jobs did a great job of this, right? You start with the problem and you work back to the technology. You don't start with the technology and try to create the product based on the technology. The second one is about the potential of kind of transforming the Near ecosystem, whether that be with number of users and transaction volumes, or whether it could benefit other kind of existing products and solutions that are already built on Near. And then the last one is, a great system architecture. Obviously, it would be ideal if you were functionally complete. We definitely do not expect that, but making sure that you have thought out the technical components, and the more technical implementation, the better to highlight the team's technical prowess. And then the last one is the business model. So ensuring that the team has a comprehensive way to generate revenue and sustain long term, and you've thought out both the product and the marketing strategy, is really important for any like long-term sustenance. And ensuring that revenue model is scalable, like trying to map out, hey, okay, we'll start off with X amount of users. Like as this grows, what does that mean for our revenue, and how could this generate significant income for the company where we could, build out more features, etc. So now I'm going to go into categories of interest. We touched on this a little bit in our first call yesterday, but I'm going to give some more tangible examples about some really amazing ideas that we have for this program. So the first one is Web 2.5. With Near's technology and extremely high performance, we really believe that Near is serving as the bridge between Web 2 and Web 3 companies, and trying to facilitate this transition from client-server models, centralized internet to a more decentralized internet. Some subcategories of Web 2.5, loyalty, rewards, social media platforms, all in this Web 2.5 context. It's decentralized, but it still takes some of the traditional Web 2 applications that we know of. And I think this might be the most broad category actually, because it's really any existing product with an active user base in Web 2 that's thinking about the transition from Web 2 to Web 3. So one great example of Web 2.5 is the most popular application on Near, which is Sweatcoin. When it launched, oftentimes fluctuates in the top 10 applications on DApp Radar and is the #1 app in over 50 countries today. So Sweatcoin started as a traditional kind of step tracking application with a Web 2 based rewards program, getting gift cards, being able to pay for different products, etc. They made a transition to Web 3 and have experienced immense success. Right, over 100 million users, over 17 million wallets, and they have a ton, over 600 plus enterprise partnerships that they've been able to leverage by this transition to Web 3. The second one is real world use cases, right? Exploring novel ways that blockchain or Web3 technology can interact with systems beyond its Web3 scope. So you can think about tokenizing physical assets, the distribution of assets, whether that be physical or digital, incentivization use cases, as well as asset management. You can I think I've seen a lot of interesting ideas around real estate recently, as well as refi, tracking carbon credits, deforestation, etc. So one great example of a real world use case is a project on Near that we have called Solaire. They establish a one-to-one connection between a physical item and a digital asset, and what they term the terminology digital twin, right? They're able to white label their set of SDKs, APIs, and infrastructure so that any organization or entity can create this physical digital pairing to enhance the user experience for their customers. And by combining this, it really opens up like a lot of new use cases in the e-commerce and shopping experience. And then the last one is AI and blockchain. So a lot of innovative use cases around the intersection of blockchain and AI. I think there's a lot of potential and unlocks that can happen when you merge the intersection of two emerging technologies. So I would encourage people to really think big here, right, how could the intersection of this technology really affect right, a wide variety of industries from finance to healthcare, supply chain management, and beyond. Some more tangible ones that I think are on the near term are like mitigating risk and security vulnerabilities. You can think about, right, not only from a technical side about, hey, can we use AI to identify smart contract security risks or infrastructure security risks, but also from the kind of disinformation aspect of it. Can we identify and reduce security vulnerabilities of, malicious AI models or malicious information? And then the other one is like, right, LLMs can't what is going to be the interaction of on-chain assets via language? Think, right, Chat GPT has really changed how we're interacting with the internet today, and could this also be applied in the Web3 industry? The example that I have here is an AI search engine for crypto. Cato is the company that's pictured here, and I believe they just raised over $60 million for this platform that they've been building, which is an AI search engine for crypto. So another great example here is Toolbox, a company that we're super excited about. They're utilizing AI to create a no-code smart contract builder. both with drag and drop support workflows, but also just interacting via a chat GPT style plugin that allows you to create smart contracts through text input. So, imagine just saying, hey, I want to create uh, a DAO that votes on, the sale GP governance rights, and then it just creates it. So a super interesting project on the intersection of blockchain and AI that we think has a ton of potential. So just going to wrap up here in summary of kind of what we went over during this presentation, but some key points that I really want everyone participating to take home. So the first is to articulate and emphasize the problem, both on a scope standpoint, how many people it affects, and on an importance standpoint, how critical it is to the people that are experiencing the problem. And then the second one is that ensuring that your pitch tells a story, right? Making sure that you walk through a coherent storyline of problem, solution, long-term vision. And then the third one is about determining your customer and your product solution fit, right? Identifying who you're going to target, who's going to use your product is really important. The fourth one is that highlight key outcomes and the progress that you've made during the hackathon, right? I know everyone's super hard at work trying to build, ideate, brainstorm, collaborate. So definitely highlight all the great accomplishments and key deliverables that you've accomplished during the hackathon. And then the last one is ensuring that you outline what is your edge, and why does this edge give you a benefit long term to create an amazing product. And yeah, that is it. Really appreciate you guys hopping on, and I hope this really helped. But definitely, if there's any questions that we can answer or open up, I've been presenting and not following the chat, but yeah, feel free to ask away.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you. We did have a few questions that have been dropped in, and we'll just reiterate them. Someone asked, do we have a link to these slides after the stream is over? Absolutely. We will have these slides available in the Hackathon Discord server, so stay tuned on the announcements channel for that. Another individual asked, can you extend the presentation portion, so the demo video, to 2 minutes? Doesn't seem long enough. Yes, everyone will have 3 to 5 minutes for that presentation. We know 2 minutes it's hard to explain all of that. And last individual asked, is this the same session as Web3 Apps Design Your NFT? This is not the same session. This is how to win. So hopefully you feel like a winner after this one as well. If there's any additional questions, please drop them in the comments in the chat. We would love to dive in. We are also available via Discord as well. Great question. How will Near help us during the incubation? For example, customer acquisition, mentoring, code review. Phenomenal question. This is something we're very serious about. So as Ken mentioned, this incubation and fellowship is going to be over the course of 12 weeks. Ken and I will both be highly involved. We are also having individuals from our engineering team and Pagoda as well involved as mentors, in addition to a number of other service providers within the Near ecosystem as well. So you are going to have no shortage of support during this incubation and fellowship, should your team be selected to participate. Amazing. We're trying to make an effort, we're trying to make an effort. If there's one thing Ken and I care about, is we want everyone to win, right? I know obviously this is a hackathon and competition, but we genuinely just want to see great ideas come out from this because of the amount of opportunity. So if you have additional questions, please feel free to ping us in Discord. My handle is my name. It's just at Jared Barnes. Pretty simple guy. Try not to be confusing. Ken is at Ken Near. So feel free to let us know if you have any other questions. We'll hang around maybe for another minute or two here and let you get back to hacking on this wonderful Saturday. Looks like Ken is enjoying himself, at least today.
Yeah, I think it's been great to see everyone, all the questions, and see like all the activity getting built. So yeah, really appreciate. Definitely feel free, any issues that you have, keep pinging them, and I'll try to help as much as I can.
Amazing. And yes, if you want to add us on LinkedIn, please feel free to do so. Absolutely. Amazing. Well, folks, thanks so much for taking the time to tune in. We don't want to hold anyone hostage to the computer any longer. So we will turn you all loose back at it. But please don't hesitate to reach out with questions. Enjoy this Saturday. We will see you all here soon.
Thanks, everybody.